show you guys what I go through on a once a month maintenance on both my freshwater tank and my saltwater tank. It's actually pretty simple. You just gotta take some time and actually do it. But yeah, let's go on with the video. Month I do, I would scrape some of the surfaces of the glass with a razor blade, special algae cleaning blade of the saltwater tank, and clean off excess algae in the freshwater tank as well. I also, I do feed my fish during this process as well. I also do clean some of my equipment, and I also, for my saltwater tank, I do put coral food actually in the tank as well. I'm going to show you how my maintenance is done throughout the, let's say, I think it takes me about an hour, but as far as the water change goes, I use a 5-gallon pail for saltwater and a 5-gallon pail for freshwater. Now, I do a freshwater or a water change in both my tanks once a month. I do 5 gallons in the 90-gallon freshwater tank, 90-gallon saltwater tank, which is with the 40-gallon sump, roughly around 120 gallons of volume, and a 5-gallon water change in the freshwater planted tank, which has it's 60 gallons, but there's about a 20-gallon sump underneath, and that's about 10 gallons. So it's actually around 70-gallon system. Now you might be wondering, why am I doing a 5-gallon water change in the saltwater tank and a 5-gallon water change in the freshwater tank? Well, the reason being, the saltwater tank is really good established. It doesn't get that dirty that fast. I just do a quick water change in the saltwater tank, kind of put nutrients back in the water that are needed. For the freshwater tank, it actually gets dirty very fast. I don't know why, but it just gets dirty very fast, so I siphon the gravel through, and I use a 5-gallon. So technically, if it was well established and didn't get dirty, I'll be using maybe a 1-gallon bucket and do it on a month-to-month basis. Because technically, when your tanks are well established, you don't have to do as often as a water change. But during the cycle period, you got to keep doing water changes, sometimes even once a day. But once you have an established tank, you can do it once a month, and you should be good to go. All right, so before I do a water change, the first thing I do is I prep the water. Now for the salt water, I use 2 brands of sea salt. One is Instant Ocean Reef Crystals, the other is, I believe, Red Sea. Those you can mix and you can use right away. The other brands, you have to wait 2 days for the water to actually be good to use, and that's the salt water. So for this freshwater, this is what I do to prep. So since plants do like nutrients, I do add nutrients right away to the 5-gallon pail. And since I don't do an often water change, so I don't have to keep adding water, the nutrients for the plants that often. So I could maybe do it once a month, or from time to time I would put some nutrients directly into the tank, depending on how I see it, if they need it or not. Now, I do use aquarium salt. There is just enough aquarium salt left in here for this 5-gallon pail, which I'm going to add. So I can be throwing out the trash. Next, I do add a cap full of this Seacam Flourish. This is for your plants. And then I will add a cap full of the Seacam Flourish Iron, which is a really good supplement to your plants as well. And then this is a very good product. This is made by H2O Plants. It's a Vital. It's an all-in-one plant fertilizer for your freshwater plants. And what I'm going to do is, actually it's recommended for 1 pump for every 10 gallons. So since my tank is about a 70-gallon volume, I'm going to add 7 pumps directly into this 5-gallon pail. Then when I'm done with that, I'm going to use the neutral regulator. So the neutral regulator keeps your pH at 7.0. I use well water, so I don't have city water, so I use well water. So my water is actually on the soft side, so keeping a 7.0 is actually ideal for the kind of fish I keep, which is their tiger barbs. Now, if I kept something like discus and angels, they would actually appreciate softer water. But nowadays, discus don't even require soft water anymore because they're actually tank bred. So, which that means you could go ahead and keep them in the 7.0 water instead of that low. Now, if you get wild caught Altum angelfish or wild caught discus, you would need to keep at a lower pH. This neutral regulator, so for every 10 to 20 gallons, a teaspoon. So I just really, all I need is just the half of this little spoon right here. I do that, put it in there, and I'm good to go. Now, this CCAM neutral regulator, so you can see right here, not only does it regulate your pH, it also, it's like the AquaSafe. It does actually help in AquaSafe. Now, one last thing I forgot, hold on. Even though I have well water, I still protect just in case. So I'm going to add AquaSafe about half a capful into the, well, a quarter of a capful into this 5-gallon pail. Alright, and that's how you prep your freshwater bucket. Alright, so now with me here is I have my 5-gallon pail that I'm going to use to prep to make salt water. And I have a measuring cup. But first I got to get a funnel to actually put this in. That is half a cup of salt for every gallon that you use. So we're going to be changing 5 gallons, and I'm going to be adding 5 gallons worth of salt. Now, don't get confused. This is a quarter of a cup. So I have to add, instead of 5 of these to make half, I need for the 5-gallon volume of bucket that I plan to use, I need to add 10 quarters instead of 5 halves. So don't get confused, I'm not over adding the salt. Now, here's another thing. If you know your salinity in your tank is low, this is a good time to actually add some more. The salinity in my tank is actually more in the high end, so I'm actually good. I'm actually don't even need to try lower it. I have it perfectly to where fish and coral and invertebrates will actually thrive. So I'm going to go ahead and add the salt. Alright, and here's I have my stir stick, which I push into the funnel. That way I can push any salt that doesn't want to go in because it has hardened because it was exposed to air. So once I push it in, I'm good to go there. There we go. And next what I'm going to do is actually, I am going to add AquaSafe on there. I'm going to get about a quarter of a capful of AquaSafe. Then after that, I am actually going to add just half of this neutral regulator. What it does is it helps to bring my pH level of what I want in my salt water in the bucket back to 8.3 because my pH level of the well water is around 6.8, so it does help bring it back. So I'm going to get about half a cup of it. I mean, not half a cup, sorry, excuse me. I meant just half the teaspoon. Next, I am going to actually throw in this Reef Fusion. I'm going to throw in 4 capfuls of these Reef Fusion 1 by CCAM that maintains calcium and alkalinity levels. But actually, no, I'm not going to do that first because this is a liquid, so it's going to mess up anything I throw that's dry powder. So I'm going to throw in actually a full thing of magnesium. Half a tablespoon of magnesium, which you really do need in your tank to have your corals thriving. So next, I'm going to add Reef Buffer that buffs it to 8.3, and this time I'm going to add 2 full tablespoons of it. This will actually keep your pH levels in place and check. We added the pH buffer for the salt water. I'm going to add actually, I'm going to add the reef builder, which raises alkalinity. So I'm just going to add one half tablespoon of this in there. So once I'm done with that, I can actually throw that in there because I use it that often. I'm actually going to throw 4 capfuls of this alkalinity and calcium stabilizer. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's okay. They say do not mix these together and add them at once, but as long as you're pre-mixing in a bucket, it is okay. It's going to be just fine. So once you're done with that, you can go ahead and pour water in this one. Alright, so the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off the systems in the bottom here. Now, I'm going to explain to you guys that this is not my full maintenance day because I change my filter media every 2 months because that's how they're good for. So every 2 months I change my filter media because I throw a lot of filter media in there because the more filter media you throw in your tank, the more clear water. Alright, so after you fill up your buckets of water, the next thing you want to do is actually mix. You gotta mix them really good. That way, all the nutrients and everything, all the additives that you added mix well with this water, so it's a lot easier when it goes into the system. Same with the salt water. You want to mix them really good, because especially with all that salt in there, you want the salt to be pre-mixed, because you don't want your livestock to actually have it go through their gills, because it's not healthy for it. That's why you want to pre-mix your salt really well. So after you've done that, and you from time to time you come back and mix. Now all this became like white. That's not salt. What that is actually the additives. That's fine. That can be pre-mixed into the water and you're good to go. But you cannot have salt particles go in a tank that has livestock. So guys, the very next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some maintenance. As you can see, I have a filter sock attached to a pump. What that does is it collects extra excess dirt. Now normally, if I would be changing the filter media, I would actually change them all out. But since I am not changing the filter media, I'm just going to be washing this filter sock. Well, I got to get something to grab it in. This is where I wash off the sock. What this does is create extra clear water. It kind of collects the dirt into the sock, and I usually put it right before the return chamber. That way, when the water returns, it actually comes out crystal clear. I also add an airline to the pump. That way I get more oxygen into the water. I already have an airline going to the gravel in my tank, but in my sump I also have an airline that pumps fresh oxygen into the sump. That way I get more. Alright guys, so now we're going to place it right back on the pump again. In order to do that, I have to be really careful. But first I got to check to make sure the pump is clear of any gravel. And as you can see, it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert it into the sock. It's a little bit difficult because the pump is actually bigger. Oh, it became detached. Yeah, you don't want the propeller to go to be just open because of the fact that. So this will literally suck and put water in there. Now there's an airline tube. What that means is I could attach it to this airline right over here. I can attach. Hold on. I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to attach it. So this tube right here pumps fresh oxygen. I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the pump. So I went ahead and attached the filter pump the airline hose to the pump. So we got this old back straightened out. We got the bio wells here, and we should be good to ready rock and roll right after a quick siphon of water change. I also went ahead and prepped some frozen food for my saltwater tank so that when I'm done water change I can feed the livestock. Now I got to make a video of how I actually feed my fish, and it'll be so much cool. So next I am going to clear off excess algae off the tank. That way, here's why I do this first. The algae will drop to the bottom on the gravel, so when I do start siphoning, I pick up the excess algae. So we're gonna be clear soon. I'm gonna go to the other side. Alright, got that going, so now we can go ahead and just start. And you could actually pinch the... So, I finished siphoning off the... doing the siphon off 5 gallons. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn the system back on. That way the water, the sump can start going circulating the water, even though it's probably going to run out of water before I pour all the water out. But, nevertheless, it kicks back and starts filtering the system. That way, when I pour it in, we're good to go. So next, I'm going to turn the system back on and make sure everything is working correctly. So, away we go. I got the UV sterilizer running. Yep, everything looks like in the prime condition. Let's see to make sure the water... I believe everything's working. If anything, I'll go ahead and fix it later. Next, I'm going to go pour the water back in there. So in pouring the water back in, you want to pour it into a solid surface, not the gravel. So either place your hand underneath the water flow, or like I'm doing, I'm placing it where there's a bunch of rocks. So it does seem like everything is functioning correctly in the freshwater tank. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to feed the tiger barbs. Yeah, I got to go ahead and buy more plants sooner or later for them, but there you go, tiger barbs. Yeah, the next video I need to work on is what I feed my fish during feeding time. So we are moving to the saltwater reef tank now, and what we're actually gonna do now is we're actually gonna turn off the systems. System 1 off. Gotta make sure none of those pumps will be working. Perfect, it's draining back in there. So we're gonna go ahead and turn off the circulation pumps. And that was quickly done. All circulation pumps should be off. So we can go ahead and work on the tank. So now we're working on the reef tank, and I have my scraper. I'm gonna go ahead and start scraping off all the excess algae that accumulated basically 1 month. And I do that before I do the water change, that way. Alright, I finished scraping the algae off the glass. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean the protein skimmer cup and the filter sock. So I went ahead and cleared a tray here that had excess algae. It's a splash tray that's taking in water coming from the tank. Cleared the protein skimmer and it cleared up the filter sock. So next I'm gonna be wiping off excess salt from like the fans and stuff like that. The dry salt. the salt becomes hard and everything like that. Well, guys, now that type of maintenance is done, it's time to siphon the water out of this tank. So guys, like I said, right after when I'm done with this water right here, siphon it out, I'm going to be siphoning the new water back into the system so that it has an even mixture. Alright, and next I'm going to get some coral food for them. Throw that in there. So now we got coral. Alright. And next I'm going to turn on the systems and make sure everything works. Alright, got that back working. And we'll turn on those external pumps. Alright. I just checked everything. Everything seems to be operational, functional. So now the next thing is actually to feed the fish. Yep, and that's it. Alright guys, so there is one more thing that I do for safety when I'm doing this. So I add half a cap of AquaSafe to every tank, or a full cap of AquaSafe to every tank. Just letting you know what. Alright guys, thank you for watching the YouTube video. I hope you liked it. Please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe down below. And also go ahead and take a look and visit my Shopify store. I also got a few other links. I got my Instagram info on the bottom, in the description back there. And also go ahead and actually support me on Patreon so I can keep doing more of these videos.